Hello, viewers of The Pioneer. How are you doing? I hope you are healthy and well. Today, I will share with you an interesting developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. The continuous struggle between the Ukrainian army and the Russian army continues. On the other hand, the struggle of the Russian army continues with all its internal problems. So much so that these problems have reached an unbearable dimension. Now, even Russian soldiers openly express the magnitude of these problems. As you know, one of the biggest problems of the Russian army was the problem of the drunk Russian soldiers in the Russian army. In our previous reports, we signaled that these problems would increase. The Pioneer team was right once again. The arrival of the winter conditions and the heavier losses of the Russian army on the front line every day caused a great demoralisation in the Russian soldiers. So how the Russian soldiers try to compensate for the losses of morale? Of course, by getting drunk. So what are the new problems caused by the drunk Russian soldiers in the Russian army? Let's take a look together. I try to read your comments on the reports prepared by the Pioneer team as much as I can. I would like to share the comments of users named James Coach 8271, Cleve Bridgeman, Bridge Macbird, and Lutz Fleefor 8253 with you here. Thank you all for your nice comments. I will try to include more of your comments in our video as much as I can. Let's start if you're ready. The Pioneer reports. Another drunken Russian soldier. This problem is getting bigger every day. As you may remember, I have mentioned many times that Russian soldiers get drunk on alcohol and what they do while under the influence of the intoxication. Once, a drunken Russian soldier even targeted his commander. New information about this problem has emerged. Moreover, not only developments related to this problem, the Russian military's measures to address this problem have also been revealed. You know the Storm Z troops. Let's talk about it briefly. Storm Z troops have no significance for the Russian leadership and the Russian war leadership. Because the Storm Z units are made up of prisoners of war and criminals. We know that the Storm Z units are deployed in all areas where Russian artillery is weak. Why? Because the Russian army does not want to lose its more qualified personnel in a war that they cannot win. The only purpose of using the Storm Z troops is to open up space for the Russian army to advance. Recently, a very interesting and remarkable claim has spread among the Russian sources. According to this claim, the number of Storm Z troops has increased significantly. We have stated that the Storm Z troops consisted of soldiers who were previously punished. It is claimed that drunk soldiers have had an effect on the increase in the number of soldiers in the Storm Z troops in recent days. In recent days, it is reported that many of them have been recruited to the Storm Z units as a punishment for the increase in the cases of drunken soldiers in the Russian army. What did we say? For Russian army, the Storm Z units has no importance for the Russian army. This unit is sent to areas where regular Russian troops cannot enter, and it is thrown as bait in front of the Ukrainian army. So the new punishment for the drunken Russian soldiers has become clear: to be feather for the Ukrainian soldiers. The soldier serving in the Storm Z unit has very interesting claims. The Storm Z member conducted an interview on the condition of anonymity, and this interview clearly revealed the attitudes of the Russian commanders about the Storm Z unit. In the interview in question, the Storm Z member makes the following statements. I saw on the battlefield a group of 6 or 7 wounded Storm Z fighters being given medical treatment by a commander who disobeyed an order to remove the wounded from the area. I can say that this is the line with the general attitude of the officers towards the punishment. The Storm Z unit is nothing but meat for the commanders. Even a person with the smell of the alcohol in his mouth is immediately punished and made a member of the Storm Z. The mission of the Storm Z unit is clear: to act as a kind of artillery where there is no Russian artillery. They throw us into the enemy trenches. We are in a really bad situation. The government and the war leadership have abandoned us. Why don't you leave, you may ask? This is as risky as war. We live in a danger of death, and any moment, this danger of death comes not only from the enemy, but also comes from our own commanders. The only problem with the Storm Z that is not a unit where drunken soldiers are punished. In fact, these soldiers are completely discarded. Storm Z troops not only lack of artillery support or bombardment support, they are also denied even the most basic humanitarian needs such as the food and water. When the Bakhmut war was in full swing, the Stormzy unit numbered about 120 members, but at the end of the Bakhmut war, the number of the unit had dropped to about 30. The Stormzy unit has really turned into a prison for the Russian soldiers. There is another remarkable situation here. The Russian administration is acting against not only international norms, but also its own norms. According to the Russian law, in order for soldiers to be punished, a military court must make a decision about that soldier. However, the Stormzy structure is a place where Russian soldiers are executed extrajudicially. Soldiers sent here realize that they are clearly disposable. As you can imagine, this situation further lowers their morale, which is already low. The combat capacity of the Russian army is decreasing day by day due to the similar moves. According to the information we have obtained from local sources, the Kherson front line is the area where the most cases of drunken soldiers have been seen in recent days. You also know from our map report, the ongoing Ukrainian attacks on the Kherson front line have worn out Russian army. Russian soldiers are trying to find the solution by getting drunk. Here you can think of the effect of the drunkenness as both encouraging and the pain-reducing. However, this situation is not sustainable, both for the Russian soldiers and for the Russian army as a whole. Our local sources are trying to find out more about the drunken Russian soldiers. But as you can imagine, the Russian government has imposed a very strong embargo to prevent dissemination of this information. But sooner or later, more information about drunken Russian soldiers will emerge. The Russian government is both trying to hide the information about what happened in the Russian army and trying to cover up this Stormzy disgrace. According to the Russian sources and the Russian official channels, there is no Stormzy units in the Russian army. However, we witnessed many images of many soldiers who say that they are Stormzy members. We can consider this as a kind of propaganda. No country would throw its own citizens, even if they are guilty, as bait in front of the enemy, right? The Russian Federation is an exception. The Russian government is clearly throwing Russian citizens as a bait in front of the Ukrainian army to punish them. As you can imagine, this situation may find the most reacting among Russian citizens. In addition, the recent assignment of the Russian soldiers who have been punished in the army to these Stormzy units may cause Russian citizens to flee from the war in the event of the possible mobilization. Therefore, the Russian administration denies the existence of these Stormzy units. So what do you think? Do you think cases of the drunken soldiers in the Russia will increase? Will the events in the Stormzy unit affect the Russian army? Do you think the combat potential of the Russian soldiers has decreased? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.